We've got 32 cars, a full starting grid. There's 18 Fords taking on 14 Holdens, and at the front, it is Holden versus Ford. Skaife and Ambrose on row 1 of the grid. Faulkner and Murphy, positions 3 and 4. Ingle, Ellery, Bernard, and Garth Tander.
Craig Lowndes and Stephen Richards, Todd Kelly and John Bow starts out at 12. Rick Kelly and Paul Radisich, Stephen Johnson in the second shell Ford, and Glenn Seaton.
Towards the back of the field, the Kiwi of Jason Richards, Neil Crompton, Greg Ritter starting for DJR this weekend. Max Wilson, the Brazilian, in position number 21. Perkins and Barguana is there in positions number 24. You've got Paul Wheel in 25, and right down to the last row of the grid, the Cat Racing Ford of Simon Wills, and the Sydney-based team of Cameron McConville, the Lansvale Smash Repairs Commodore. So we've got some terrific conditions here. 18 degrees outside, 28 degrees on the track, and you'll be on board with a whole host of our drivers as we go round through round 3. Stephen Johnson in the Shell Helix Ford Falcon, car number 17. We've got a few cameras in there. We've also got cameras on board with Greg Murphy. That's a terrific shot. Give you a great view of this track. The Kmart Commodore, car number 51.
Craig Lowndes also carrying one of our cameras, many of our cameras. Ford in-car coverage. Craig looking for a better run today. Sort of fought mid-pack or at the rear of the top 10 pack yesterday. Hopefully he can get a bit further up the grid. Let's check it out. The Ford race analysis of Eastern Creek. 32 starters, 39 laps the distance for these two races, just over 150 kilometres in distance. Pit window for the compulsory pit stop for tyres opens laps 2, closes lap 28, and the 2001 winner Mark Skaife, he's on a roll. He's won this round 3 years in succession. Can he make it 4?
It'll be an absolutely awesome effort, a record-breaking effort. Now, we talk about our in-car cameras. This is one terrific view. You'll get inside the 4-time series champion. You'll be able to take a look as he's driving along this circuit, the LED readout that he's got on his steering wheel.
The critical thing he'll be looking at the moment is on the left, on the top row there, TH percentage, that's throttle percentage. And the engineers work out a throttle percentage that he has to reach before the car leaves the grid for maximum traction off the line. There's the race conditions they'll be fighting in today. Ambient temperature, about 18 degrees, tack temperature, 10 degrees higher than that, 28. Average cabin temperature, about 26 degrees, but that'll come up as well as they get down to work.
And helping us along throughout this commentary for this race, Wayne Gardner, who of course isn't racing here this weekend. Welcome aboard, Wayne. This should be a hell of a start. Your teammate Marcus Ambrose is alongside Mark Skaife. It's Commodore and Falcon at the front row of the grid. An interesting second row of the grid with John Faulkner with Greg Murphy. Race start ready to take place. Here we go, race 2 of round 3 at Eastern Creek. Sunshine galore, big crowds, and a hell of a scrap in front of us. 39 laps, 150 Ks. Mark Skaife got the power down first. Greg Murphy's charged up right behind Marcus Ambrose. Skaife will take the line into turn 1, and Murphy is putting lots of pressure on the outside of Marcus Ambrose.
Great start by Murphy. You saw him leap off the line, really pounced on the Pertec Ford, and he's actually going to try and round up Mark Skaife as well. He's gone way off line though.
Straight into the dirt at turn 2, the Kmart Commodore. He really took the jump out to Marcus Ambrose, and there's a spin there involving Brad Jones. Brad Jones in the Aussie Mail Ford Falcon caught at the exit of 2, rear panel damage to the Aussie Mail Ford Falcon. Let's see what happened at the front of the field as Murphy tried to make his way around Mark Skaife. Well, in the end, it's just settled back to 1 and 2, hasn't it? Skaife, Ambrose, Faulkner's in there as well. They've all held their positions except car number 51.
Yeah, Greg Murphy will be kicking himself there. Very aggressive start. He carried that momentum all the way through turn 1, all the way down to turn 2. Maybe got a little bit excited trying to take Skaife around the outside, and he paid a big penalty. Understeered off, and now he's lost a lot of track position.
He was committed, wasn't he, Wayne? Once he got out there, he was committed.
I think he was rather too ambitious for that for the second corner of the race. He's rushed in there with good speed, obviously, and the tyres still being cold. Turned in, wouldn't turn. It's gone straight ahead onto the dirt and lost about 48 positions in the doing so. So it wasn't the smartest move, and particularly being a long endurance race like this, so big mistake.
One of the features that we'll show, like we did throughout race 1, the Twilight race, we'll be able to show you where the drivers have moved from their starting position. Have they gone up? Have they gone down? Well, Mark Skaife comes across to the roars of the crowd. A packed crowd in the front grandstand of the main straight. Here they go into turn 1. This sweeping left-hander, 200 kilometres plus. That's Garth Tander. Behind behind him is Craig Lowndes. Skaife with a 1:39.203 has the fastest time out there. Ambrose is second. Faulkner's behind him. Russell Ingall's in there, and David Bernard make up the top 5.
Bernard ran really wide there on the exit to turn 2. He's lucky he didn't lose a position there, Wayne. He went right off.
Yes, and also I noticed Marcus as well. You know, that's something that the guys have been trying to fight with the 2 cars. And they have made some changes from yesterday, and they say the biggest complaint is that they can't follow this man who's Skaife in the tight corners. That's where they seem to get away. They just don't have the grip. They have made some changes, but looks like it may not be working just at this stage, although it is very early in the race and tyres are still a little bit cold. Pressure
here from Russell Ingall on John Faulkner. Man who's just taken an amazing step up in performance this weekend. Dynapack entry. Just all of a sudden, very, very competitive. But Russell Ingall now puts the squeeze on the car. No touch there, but very, very close. So Russell Ingall looks like he's in a hurry. I spoke to John Faulkner earlier this morning before this race. He said, well, if someone comes up and they can run faster than me, I really want to get some points, because he's very much aware of the qualifying situation at Hidden Valley in a few weeks' time, and he really wants to get some championship points on the board.
Kim Jones and the Aussie Mail crew have a stack of race tape on standby for Brad Jones. What they're saying at the moment is keep the Aussie Mail Falcon out there until the window opens. They'll try and patch it up during the stop.
Well, the pit window is open now for compulsory tyre change. We go back on board with Russell Ingall. Car heavily loaded up, 200 kilometres an hour. They tackle turn 1, and it's hard on the brakes down toward turn 2, right down to about 70 k's. He's really feeling the pressure from the Castrol man at the moment. The order: Skaife, Ambrose, Faulkner, Ingall. Here's a replay of the start, Wayne.
Yeah, you can see Murph's done a very good start. He's gone down the outside. Now, this is going to be hard because Marcus has got line on the inside here. And basically, Marcus, all he's got to do is hold it into the brakes. But Murph's had really good corner speed in the first up, particularly with cold tyres. He's rushed in on the outside, gone into the loose stuff and cold tyres, and so see you later into the dirt, and of course loses 48 positions out of it. So there's a big mistake, particularly in these sort of long endurance races.
Yeah, well, Greg Murphy ended up losing 9 positions in that. Paul Radicic was one of the big winners of the first lap. He went up 4 positions. So, like we've been talking about, as John Faulkner once again gets the blowtorch from Russell Ingall at the very same turn. That's turn 10, coming down towards turn 11. And then they join up to the front straight for turn 12. Now, the last time they did this, the 46 car versus the 8 car, and in straight line speed, there was nothing in it. So, the Castrol Commodore of Russell Ingall is going to have a pretty good battle on his hands with John Faulkner. This is exactly what Ingall did, just gets out into some clean air on the left-hand side of John Faulkner, and Faulkner pulls away. Yeah, Matty, in the qualifying, Faulkner was very quick. He was like 3rd or 4th fastest, and Russell was a long way back. But the situation's changed now because this is race distance and it's a long race, and they're carrying, 100-odd litres of fuel. So the cars tend to understeer a lot. You can see how wide it's going in that corner because they're carrying 100 litres of fuel right in the boot of the car, which basically puts all the weight over the back tyres. And of course, when you turn, you've got understeer. But when that fuel burns off, some of the grip will come back to the front. And these drivers can change the car inside to balance that out with a roll bar adjustment. As you can see them fiddling around with bars inside the car, but it's always a hard situation.
First Shell Ford comes into pit lane for the compulsory tyre change. Stephen Johnson goes early. He's going to get this stop out of the way and wait for the field to come back to him. Yeah, try and make hay while the sun shines. Get a good lap on the tyres. Try and make as much real estate up as he can.
That's easily said than done, Mark, because when the tyres are cold, as we've seen with Murph, you can easily spear off. So you're trying to make time. Very easy to flat spot a front tyre because they're not up to working temperature. And when you come into the turn and you've still got a boot full of fuel, they just understeer. So easy to say, but hard to do.
There's certainly a recurring theme when you come to Eastern Creek, isn't it? The word understeer. I mean, you've got to come here with the mindset that you're going to have to deal with it all the way throughout.
Yes, it's the difficult with this track is there's a couple of long, fast corners, and you just cannot get the cars to turn. But when you do get them to turn there, then they oversteer in the small corners. So you've got to have a balance. So I guess you've got to have some sort of understeer in the fast corners, but with not oversteering too much in the slow corners, in the hairpins and so on. So it's always a bit of a difficult one.
Jason Bright saw Forward just trying to fight his way back through the field after that engine failure yesterday. Craig Lowndes carrying one of our many cameras this weekend. He's up behind Garth Tander in the Valvoline Cummins Commodore. Tanders in 7th, Lowndes is in 8th. So they haven't quite hit the sweet spot with this car this weekend. Lowndes just hasn't quite got the speed of those Stone Brothers Falcons.
No, they're not up to our cars at the moment, Mark, and which is good news.
Neil Crompton's in.
Compulsory tyre change out of the way for Crompton, so some teams choosing to come in early must be reasonably confident about the durability of this tyre over a longer distance. Here's Jason Bright. He's going to try the leapfrog trick as well. Had an engine problem yesterday, a broken oil seal. Had to stop the car. And that put him right down the order. So now he's going to try and leapfrog by taking his stop relatively early.
One of the fascinating things about the V8 Supercar Championship this year with these compulsory pit stops is that, well, the race can certainly be won and lost in pit lane. You can see for tiny little errors, little mistakes that cost you a second in pit lane can cost you a hell of a lot of time out on the track.
Well, 1 second on the racetrack is a long time, and it's very, very hard to make up. But, you know, 1 second in the pits or 2 seconds in the pit, you can make it up very quickly. So your pit crew's very, very important to you.
Mark Skaife currently has the fastest sector times throughout the first 2 sectors, but Marcus Ambrose is the quickest around the last sector of this track. So it looks as though if they stay this way, there's a hell of a long way to go, though. 33 laps. You've got Skaife and Ambrose out the front. Faulkner and Ingle are behind them. Bernard, Ellery, Tander and Lowndes. That's the battle we're looking at right now. This man won here in 1996. His first ever V8 Supercar round win. That was Craig Lowndes. That's how he announced his arrival to the V8 world. And here's the Dynapack car of John Faulkner.
I was talking to John earlier today about trying to get an answer on this sudden increase in performance. He puts it down to a couple of major things. He was having all sorts of steering geometry problems with the car. He says they've got on top of that, so the car's turning much better. And they've also just completed a new engine development program with Dean Leopold, the engine builder, in-house at Faulkner's. And he said the 2 things have made a big difference to the performance of the car. Well, that's all he's done. It's a massive difference because he's leapt up from nowhere to be fighting in the top 4.
Do you know what, Mark? I think that's hard to believe, to tell you the truth. I think that there's more to it than that. You know, engines can make a little bit. It might make another 10 or 20 horsepower more, but it doesn't make up, you know, 1 second or 2 seconds. I think there's a lot more to that story than we're hearing, but it's certainly working very good and handling well. And you know, for example, he's holding off Russell Ingle, who's one of the top runners, and John's had a, you know, hasn't been a front runner in the past, and he's leading Russell very clearly and easily at this stage. So I think he's done a lot to the suspension, a real lot in general.
So look at this, closing in now on the back. Here comes Russell Ingle. He's been sizing him up a few laps. I think he might have it this time. 200 kilometres an hour, side by side through turn 1. Russell Ingle pulls off a beautifully clean manoeuvre, but Faulkner tries to sneak on the inside. Ingle closes the door, and he picks up 3rd position.
Mark's, John's new engine wasn't that quick down the straight.
Yeah, if you look at, I was watching John Faulkner's car yesterday around the back of the circuit. If you look at the body language of it and the way it handles, it looks just like the HRC cars.
Yeah, it's been a dramatic transformation. Problems here.
Trouble for Greg Murphy. This is the kind of mistake that you don't want, a wheel nut problem.
That's very, very expensive. A few seconds you dump in pit lane, you try and make that up on the track.
Well, that's exactly the same problem that Mark Skaife had, didn't he, at Phillip Island, when Marcus Ambrose ended up coming in, having a nice, clean pit stop. Mark Skaife had a wheel nut problem. The difference there was that Marcus Ambrose managed to hold him out and collect the race win. That'll cost Greg Murphy dearly. The battle you are looking for and looking at right now is Stephen Ellery, car number 31. Garth Tander gives him a little tap in car 34, and Craig Lowndes is waiting to pounce.
That was a really nice pass by Stephen Ellery up the inside, and although Tander's got him back, so that was actually good, clean racing, and both very, very good driving from both of them. This is going to be an interesting battle here with Lowndes all over him like a cheap suit at this stage, so this is going to be very interesting, and my teammate's just in front of that, so it's going to be, we'll have to watch this one.
Tander's in 7th. Ellery's in 8th. Lowndes is 9th, but he wants to get up another position. Look how close he is behind the super cheap Ford. They go hard under brakes. 200 kilometres an hour through turn 1 is a dauntingly fast corner. You can see the officials have moved a set of tyres to the apex of that turn to try and stop the driver's grass cutting. Look at the Nintendo GameCube replay of that manoeuvre.
Yeah, that's as close as it gets without ending in tears. So 8 laps gone of 39, the first of our 250-kilometre races.
The fastest lap of the race so far, Skaife, a 1:32.99. There's no other car has recorded a time in the 1 minute 32 second bracket. Very quick round here. Let's watch the crew on the Helix pit stop clock. Got a little fumble at Phillip Island that cost them dearly. Not going to make the same mistake this time around. 9.8, under 10 seconds. Very slick stop from the Holden Racing Team crew. Now, Ambrose was about 5.5 seconds behind Skaife before he came in with the stop, so he certainly will have overtaken, but he has yet to make his compulsory stop as well. So he'll have the foot down here, trying to make up as much ground as possible. Here it is, the Pertec Ford. Race leader.
It'll be interesting to see what the Ross and Jimmy do as far as as tyre strategy goes now when they're going to pull him in. He's obviously in the lead by quite a margin, but just to see if they're just going to burn fuel off and then leave him hang out there for a while and then put fresh tyres towards the end for a big push at Skaife, which I think probably would be the right thing to do, but no, he's going in.
Bringing him in now.
I'm wrong.
1 lap behind. They're all pioneering this stuff though, Wayne, because it's the first year for the Dunlop control tyre.
Yes.
A lot of the guys haven't had a chance to run a full race distance on any of these circuits, so.
Marcus, nice and steady, mate. On the marks.
Getting direction from the crew, 40km/h speed limiter on. Hear the car backfiring and popping as it comes down pit lane.
I tell you what, Mark, after being out in the race and you come in at 40 k's, you feel like you get out and walk faster than these things do, coming in at 40 k's.
You're not the first man to say that. Everyone's so frustrated with that 40 k's,
yes.
But it's all about safety. Let's see. Mark Skaife did a 9.8 second pit stop. He did it under 10. Good work for the Pertec crew. They're going to get him outside just on 10 seconds.
That was actually the Caltex Haviline team there changing their tyres for the Pertec crew. So that was my guys. Good on you guys.
So Ambrose gets back in. He's out of the 40k speed limit. Let's try and catch up where he has rejoined the circuit relative to Mark Skaife. Ambrose back in action. Slick stop. Oh, look how much the car understeers there. Cold tyres. Classic example.
That's what happens. And also he's still got a pretty heavy load of fuel in the back, so that's exactly what happens. And that's the problem that the team have been chasing weekend, is a bit of front grip in the tight corners. That and the hairpin. It's a tough one for them.
And that means that this man now has the on-track race lead. Russell Ingall yet to pit. Car number 8, you're on board the Dunlop camera for the Castrol Perkins Commodore. It's always a good way to watch someone attack.
Looks like he's going to fight you with those eyes, doesn't he?
Well, just the way he also lines up, very corner. It's almost like, looking through a shotgun. He sort of takes the corner with his eyes first, and then lets the car follow.
He's probably had a bit of practice walking around with a shotgun in his hand, the way he looks, doesn't he? I wouldn't tangle with him in a dark night in a dark alley, that's for sure.
Just to put you in the picture of what happened as a result of race 1 overall on the championship, Russell Ingall moved up from 13th position overall to 11th position overall after that first race that we had. Collected a few points, 35 points he got in the bag after finishing 5th. But the big problem for the rest of these guys is that after race 1 here today, Mark Skaife has gone even further ahead. 660 points he's out clear as Ingall leaves some dust on the track. And take a look at your PlayStation race score now. It gives you an idea of the changing fortunes here as teams come in and out with their pit stops.
Now there's a good car, the Caltex Haviline car. There's the best car on the track, I think. Come on, David.
If you look at your PlayStation 2 race score at the bottom of the screen, those blue boxes with the T, that denotes the cars that have come in and made their compulsory tyre stop. You'll find most of them have decided to go in about the middle of the window. Window closes on lap 28. And as they re-emerge, front car in the queue in terms of cars that have made their compulsory stop should be Mark Skaife. He's back in 14th position at the moment. Ambrose is in 16th. There's about 5 seconds between them.
And until now, it's been quite civil down there in pit lane because they've been coming in and out in dribs and drabs, but you get the feeling that on this lap there's going to be more than a couple coming in at a time. Definitely David's going to come in, possibly Russell Ingall coming in. Here's Cameron McLean, one of the guys who had to go through pre-qualifying, the BIP Pet Foods entry, and there's Jason Bargwanna behind him. We all know his story for the weekend, and currently he's in 10th position. Yet to pit though. Behind him is Tony Longhurst and Craig Baird from Team Brock as well. Here it goes. So Bernard's in, Lowndes is in as well.
This will be an interesting race in the pits to see who gets out first between these two.
All these cars in front of Mark Skaife making their compulsory stops. Skaife back in 14th spot, but he's effectively the race leader. Here's this great duel between the two crews.
Stephen Richards has also come in there.
There's a wheel rolling.
Wheels rolled off over the no man's land line. You can see it there in the middle of pit lane. So that's probably going to attract a penalty for the Stone Brothers squad. Very, very hard on people. Wheel nuts or wheels or anything run over that line. There it is.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see if there was a penalty attached to that. That was a shame that happened because it was a reasonable pit stop and they did get out in front of Lowndes.
Could be costly. Look at this. Jason Bargwanna maintaining the pressure. The VIP Pet Foods car of Cameron McLean. The Queenslander would just be happy to have made it through pre-qualifying. You can see how close Bargwanna is there.
He's letting me know he's there anyway.
Leaning on him left, right and centre. Cameron McLean 11th, Jason Bargwanna in 10th. Yes, I think Gary Rogers, his team boss, will be watching pretty closely. You don't want to bend that again.
13 laps. Push hard for a few laps, mate. You're running in position 2, so we can get some time in.
That's the radio men talking to Garth Tander, Jason Bargwanna's teammate. He's currently second on the road behind Russell Ingall.
Here's the battle group that you're taking a look at. 4 cars in this fight. McLean at the front, Bargwanna. Longhurst is behind him, and Craig Baird from Team Brock just peels away from the back of the better electrical Ford Falcon as they come through to turn 1, the left-hand sweeper. Understand that David Bernard has been penalised. He'll get a drive-through pit lane penalty for what you saw there with the wheel spinning across pit lane during that stop.
It was a shame because, you know, we're working hard with these cars, with Marcus's and David's, and they look like they're getting speed now, and looks like we've clearly got the best Fords at this moment, but unfortunately that happens.
Look at this. Still going on. These two fighting over the back place in the top 10.
They're obviously not friends, are they?
No.
Geez, poor old Gary Rogers. I hope he's got his checkbook with him again, because Jason Bargwanna had a $200,000 rebuild on that car, and now he's getting some paint work needed as well. Take a look at that V8 Supercar website address, v8supercar.com.au. Bargwanna sneaked through on the inside. You'll see everything on that website. It's the official site for the V8 Supercar Championship. So McLean now gets a bit of distance in between him and Jason Bargwanna. That's the end of David Bernard's penalty all the way through pit lane, of course, in 40 kilometres. That'd be heartbreaking.
That would be hard to take. He's been doing a good job and has driven well. Unfortunately, but you know, this is a long race and there is another race after that, so there's still a chance for him to climb back up the field. And
you mentioned that Marcus was getting the speed up. He's currently put down the fastest time so far, a 1:32.96. Mark Skaife's best, 1:32.99. They will, when everything clears up, they'll be our race leaders, Skaife and Ambrose. He is. Yeah. He's coming in on 3 wheels.
It's a sidecar, not a car.
Paul's lost his surname. As he comes in, they jack it straight up. Well, you're not going to find it under there. Don't worry about that. Whack another one on. That was the incident. That looks as though it's up the top of turn 2, so he's lost that completely. He's almost completed an entire lap with 3 wheels.
Well, he'd come in one of the cars that have made his compulsory tyre change. They're just trying to clean up the hub and check it and make sure it's not damaged so he can continue. So that's what I mean. It's a bit costly, this. Crew's changing wheels under pressure. Little things can go wrong.
That's why it's very much a team effort now, Mark.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's got to work all together. Obviously, the drivers, you know, as I said earlier, to find 1 second out there is very hard.
Yeah.
And but to find 1 or 2 seconds in the pits, if you've got an efficient crew, it's a lot better. So everyone's got to work together, and it is a team effort.
Bit of bad luck for Paul Wheel as he comes in and gets another one on. What about him at Phillip Island? He was another of the victims of the Jason Bargwanna crash. He had to spear off to the left and managed to hit a drain, avoiding that crash. It caused some spoiler, shock absorber and radiator damage. Into the pits we come with Russell Ingall. So he's come in. Just like Wayne said, it's painstakingly slow at 40 k's an hour. Remember, when they're coming down pit straight normally, the main straight, they're doing 270.
While they're in the pits, just watching the timing monitor, Marcus Ambrose continues to close on race leader Mark Skaife.
Russell Ingall came in for that stop, but Larry Perkins came in as well, and he said to the team on the radio, you're going to have to get ready now. The boys were not ready for Larry's arrival.
Yeah, it can happen under the heat of pressure here, competition. 18 of 39 gone. Russell Ingall rejoins the race, but during that stop, Marcus Ambrose has closed the gap to Mark Skaife. It's down to about just under 2.5 seconds now. So it'll be interesting to see whether the Pertec Ford can claw back that leading Commodore. There he is. Catching Skaife. Skaife's in 5th. He's just taken Ambrose, so there's nothing between him and Skaife. There you are, look at the gap. Really closed it down. So the Pertec Ford continuing to lap slightly faster than Skaife. Could have been a result of traffic. We'll find out now. They've got a clean fight.
I think a lot of this is also the fuel is being burnt up, and the car's getting lighter in the rear of the car, and it looks like, you know, his entry into the corners is a bit stronger than Skaife at this stage. But you know, when the fuel burns off, the car gets lighter in the rear of the car, and obviously gets less understeer, and he can catch. So Marcus is doing a great job out there.
Fastest lap of the race so far in the Super Cheap Auto. Fastest lap score, 1:32.96 on lap 13. We're up to lap 18 now, and he's continued to carry that pace on his second set of tyres. Really starting to close in on the back of a Holden Racing Team Commodore. What's the gap now? Check it out for you. Skaife is now up to 3rd. Ambrose is up to 4th, but they're effectively your race leaders because only Garth Tander and Stephen Ellery are yet to pit.
That explains it there on your PlayStation 2 race score. The little blue chips on the right-hand side of the name with the T in it means that they've come in for their tyre stop. So Longhurst and Brad Jones out of that group haven't come into the pits yet. Lowndes, Ingle and Faulkner certainly have.
Well, this will be surprising a few people, Wayne Gardner, but looks like the Stone brothers are carrying on that message. They are starting to get a handle on these cars. Yeah,
we've improved it a lot over the last couple of months, and you know, you can see that it's starting to work a bit stronger. But yeah, we've got a little bit more work to do. I mean, catching Skaife is one thing, but getting by him is another. So he's a bit of a wily old fox, and you know, HRT run a good operation with that car, and. But, you know, we're getting closer, as you can see in Marcus. I think he's an outstanding driver. I think he's a very, very talented driver, and he's probably the guy that if anyone's going to take it up, he's going to take it for Skaife.
It's going to be interesting, too, because Marcus Ambrose was very effective at blocking Mark Skaife out of the lead at Phillip Island a couple of weeks ago. Now the shoe's on the other foot. Let's just see how wide Skaife can make the Holden Racing Team Commodore.
It'll be his turn for payback.
And we've got a long way to go, too. It's only lap 19 of 39.
Well, he said quite clearly if he does get the chance for payback, he'd do it, wouldn't he, Mark Skaife? He made no bones about that. Let's take a look at this fantastic shot right in.
You can see that there on the left of the top there. Oh, it's going to shake around a bit. This is one of the only criticism that Mark Skaife has of this setup, that when he's going around a corner, the digital readout is constantly moving in front of his eye line as opposed to being fixed on the dashboard.
Oh, poor guy. I feel sorry for him. He's leading the race and he can't read his digital readouts.
I don't know about you, but most of us, when we hit a corner at that speed, would like to see the corner, not the steering wheel first up.
Exactly. My eyes are usually bigger than saucers, and they're peering to the window, not at the steering wheel.
Here's one of the good success stories of this round. Greg Ritter had to come through pre-qualifying. He did so. Such a pressure-packed session it was, and Wayne Gardner's testament to that. He'll tell you all about it. But car number 71 made it through and put massive smiles on the face of DJR Racing. He almost went off there in that replay, but it was great to see Greg Ritter get through, because it means that Shell Helix have now got 3 cars in this field, and he did fight at Phillip Island. He missed out through pre-qualifying there, and he admitted to me it was hard to catch those guys, hard to catch the top teams around the back part of the track. He had lots of speed in the front part of the track down Gardner Straight, but when it got all the technical, tricky stuff, that's where he couldn't find it.
Yeah, well, that was his excuse, and basically mine was I just had lap traffic, and someone had been off the circuit and brought on a heap of gravel, and when I was trying to do my time, I hit the gravel and slid off the road on, obviously, when the tyre was when it was at its premium, and I missed out by 1/10 of a second. It was disappointing, because I don't think it's a true testament of my speed and the car speed. And look, I would have loved to have been out there today, but you know, I think that it's probably not the right way to do it. I think they should just let everybody out there in the top 36 get into the race, as simple as that, you know. And it's a bit disappointing, and I guess the biggest losers at all this are the sponsors, and sponsors aren't, you know, the easiest guys to go and find and support you. So but look, you know, lessons are learned. We'll go away and we'll be back at the next race, and I can tell you one thing, it won't happen again.
Did you feel the pressure going into that? I mean, we always talk about pressure to top line athletes, and some of them, you know, deal with it in varying ways. Glenn Seaton admitted to me that was a hell of a pressure-packed session, and he really felt it beforehand.
Yes, I did, but I sort of went into it pretty relaxed, because I was really confident of, you know, being probably one of the quickest guys, and out of that group, normally I would be, but I guess it probably caught me unaware, and it just goes to show you that anything can happen, even to some of the top guys. I mean, for example, if you had a plug lead fall off, or you got a flat tyre, or anything happen, you actually miss out, and that's kind of unfair.
Well, if you take a look at this Dunlop telemetry on Greg Murphy's Kmart Commodore, it'll give you a good idea of the speed. You've got the speed there on the left-hand side of your screen. The revs on the right-hand side. In front of him is one of the Shell Helix cars. And Greg Murphy is currently in position 11, so that's Paul Radicic and Stephen Johnson in front of him here. Really pushing the rev limiter up. This is the bouncy, the up and down part of this circuit. Over that ripple strip on the inside left-hand corner. Rejoining turn 9. A left-hander through to the hairpin, which is turn 10. That's Stephen Johnson, Paul Radicic, Greg Murphy. There's the fastest lap times for you. Marcus Ambrose on lap 13, put down a 1:32.96. Mark Skaife did his quick one on lap 3.
Yep, Skaife has consistently been fastest in the first sector. The second sector has belonged to Ambrose. Greg Murphy's been the fast man in the third sector, so a number of cars they're swapping fastest sector times depending on where they're going.
Oh, Paul Radicic gets both right wheels on the dirt, and Greg Murphy waits to pounce and will do so. Gets the inside line coming into turn 1. Radicic clears the way and makes sure that he gets through smoothly. John Bow has now joined that pack as well.
This is the battle for 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th spot.
Mark, I was over one of the first practices watching it, and those two Shell cars really struggle around the back of the circuit. They're not handling particularly well, and they've got very good straight line speed, but the cars just aren't working at this circuit. You know, some circuits are very quick, but this particular circuit is just not working for them.
It's been a bit of a bogey track for them. Look at this. Gets off on the dirt, keeps the foot into the throttle. Car goes left and right. Greg Murphy took advantage of that slow exit speed. Look at this, right over on the loose stuff. It's a little bit of a wobble, and that's all Murph needed.
Oh, they both would have had flashbacks to Phillip Island, because Radicic went across down the main straight of Phillip Island at exactly the same time as Greg Murphy and Jason Bargwanna got tangled up behind them. But Murph here gets the inside running on Radicic and goes straight past him into turn 1, back down to pit lane. This is lap 23 at 39, and Garth Tander comes in, the only man remaining to pit.
Yeah, they held him out there for a long time. 22, or lap 22 of a window which closed at 28. So he was the last man to come in. Not sure whether he was able to make hay.
That was slow pit stop, 12.1.
71, Greg Ritter. Greg Ritter has pulled off the side of the track. And just as we were talking how much of a good weekend it had been just to get here, he's had to park the Shell Helix Ford Falcon.
Well, this battle continues now between Mark Skaife and Marcus Ambrose. This is the leader of the race. The Pertec Ford has been able to close into within half a second. Skaife has been able to respond and hold that lead. So this is a real tooth and nail struggle. These guys will be driving absolutely on the maximum.
That was just up at Corporate Hill, just where they went around there at around about turn 8, which is where Greg Ritter parked it. So he's come around the back area of that circuit, and the car's just given up on him.
I think Skaife's having a go. He's driving off the track a little bit there, and he's obviously trying to keep the gap and try and keep Marcus away. So he's certainly not taking it easy by any stretch of the imagination. And Marcus is trying very hard, obviously, trying not to put a foot wrong, although he's not using as much road, I've noticed, so that's a good sign.
So Skaife for the gap over Marcus Ambrose. 1.5 seconds, so he's been able to pump it out by about half a second over the last 2 laps. So maybe he's going to start trying to build that buffer again. Let Ambrose get to within half a second.
Exactly what happened. Take a look at this. Now watch this wheel nut come off the left-hand side of the screen. There it goes, as one of the Kmart Commodores comes through and avoids that. And the only other thing to go was going to be the wheel. Thankfully, everybody avoided that mess.
Now he's in the sidecar race as well with wheels.
Oh, George Bell.
Oh, what a moment. He's running up there in 4th position. About 3.5 seconds behind Craig Lowndes, who's in 3rd. Now he's dropped a ton of track positions.
You know, Mark, this is a great example of how important your pit crew is in doing everything efficiently. You know, not having a wheel run off, not having them dropping the nut, not the wheels falling off on the track, and that's why, you know, the crew has to be, you know, as good as the effort you're putting in on the track.
He's the man who's done a great fight back today. Started out in 9th position this morning, and he's made up 6 spots. He's currently in 3rd. Behind race leader Mark Skaife and Marcus Ambrose. They're about 21 seconds up the road. But This will give Lowndes a really good starting position for the third and final race today. There's the story, 24.1 seconds he is behind Marcus Ambrose.
Todd Kelly, another of the big movers, has moved up 7 positions since his race start. So you can see that on the yellow boxes there, on the side of each name. Neil Crompton's moved up 6 into 12th. Jason Bright has leapfrogged 17 places into 13th. So he's finding some speed after
12 laps.
that failure in race 1. So you can hear 00 Motorsport crew talking to Craig Lowndes. 12 laps left. He's in position number 3. In front of him is a lot of clear road.
Tander is holding station with you at the moment.
Garth Tander's 2 positions behind Craig Lowndes. Marcus Ambrose is in front, and Mark Skaife still leads this race. This is Todd Kelly and Garth Tander, positions 4 and 5, getting all close. A little too close for comfort.
Wow, Garth Tander's really starting to put the pressure on here. Todd Kelly in 4th place, Garth Tander in 5th. Faulkner's dropped back to 6th as a result of the pit stops. The pressure's really on. Garth Tander enjoying increasing competitiveness from the Valvoline Cummins car. Went away and did a lot of homework over the summer. Figured out just exactly what was wrong with these cars.
Kelly's doing quite a bit of blocking here. He has nothing like the speed of Tander. No, so there he goes. He's got him. He held him off for a little while, but obviously couldn't hold it back any longer.
Craig Lowndes has been on that radio constantly to engineer Oscar Fiorinato over the last couple of laps. He is very concerned about the rear tyres on this car and nursing them and looking after them towards the end of the race. So he's been continually checking the times of those in front and behind.
Yeah, it could be in a vulnerable situation. 134 neat for Mark Skaife, very consistent. 134.26 for Marcus Ambrose. And we'll wait for Craig Lowndes to come across the start finish line at 34.4. So he's hanging in there at the moment, but he's obviously aware that his tyres are not in great shape.
Here's the rear of the field. Max Wilson, Rodney Forbes and Brad Jones. You can see the damage done to the Aussie Mail Ford Falcon at the very first, or the very second corner of the first lap.
Yeah, it was a big shame. Yesterday's 20-minute sprint, the twilight race, after such a great qualifying top 10 shootout effort for Max Wilson, the Brazilian, he just fried up the clutch. It was really hot. And about 14 or 15 cars overtook him on the line, dropped him right down the order. He's still back there at the moment, 26th position. Midfield dice, there's Jason Bright trying to fight his way back. On the racing team in a very unusual failure. Bright's car yesterday was I think it was a seized oil pump. A failure they've never had. You never know when these things are going to jump up and bite you. Worst possible time for Bright is trying to hang on in this fight for the championship. That was not what he needed to kick his season off at Eastern Creek.
No, he's had some dramas, you know. Yeah, it's been really unfortunate for him because he's very quick, very good driver, but you know, the Lady Luck's certainly on Mark's side this year, and he doesn't seem to put a foot wrong. Although it is a very long year and he's got a huge gap at this stage, but I hope Brighty hangs in there and keeps fighting, obviously, the adverse luck at the moment, and it'll turn around for him because he's very talented and he's obviously in a very good team, and I'm sure he can win some races.
That's the battle group. We've got Jason Bright in 13th position. Neil Crompton is in front of him. Then Stephen Ellery in the Super Cheap Auto car, and Glenn Seaton, one of only 3 active drivers in this field to have won a V8 Supercar round here at Eastern Creek. Mark Skaife and Craig Lowndes are the others. And of course, Skaife has won the last 3 on the trot. So Stephen Ellery trying to put some pressure on Bright, who's got the headlights on, and Rodney Forbes finds the wall.
Oh, it's the old colour scan Falcon. They put Rodney back in that car because of the damage inflicted on Lowndes' car at Phillip Island. They put Craig in the car that Rodney was driving, which was, of course, the ex-Stone Brothers car, the first car that came on board. And they set up the new team. So they've had a real shuffle of cars there. The car that Lowndes crashed at Phillip Island is in the middle of repairs. Hopefully that'll be in action for the next round of Hidden Valley.
So currently the top 5 reads like this. Mark Skaife out in front. He's 2.2 seconds clear of Marcus Ambrose, then Craig Lowndes, Garth Tander and Todd Kelly. Now Kelly is 2.4 seconds back from that, so Mark Skaife, lap 31 of 39. Looks as though he's going to make it 2 out of 2 here if he can hold off. And this is the incident involving Max Wilson and Rodney Forbes. Forbes loses the rear of that. Same spot as Greg Ritter and crash into the concrete.
A little bit too much throttle weight.
A little bit too ambitious on the pedal at that stage. He obviously tried to drive it up the inside there of Max and got it sideways, got it loose, and
ran out of ability.
Well, once you get to that point, momentum. Well, I don't want to say that, but once you get to that point, momentum takes over. Thanks, Mark.
Mark Skaife, Marcus Ambrose, 2.4 seconds the gap between them. Craig Lowndes, 22 seconds now behind our leading pair, but Garth Tander is closing on Lowndes by about half a second a lap. So Craig, he may be struggling for rear tyre grip.
If you watch Craig's car earlier, it's very stiff in the rear. It looks like they've stiffened the rear of the car up, and they've made the car turn a lot better, which is probably what he was after for today. And but in doing that, I mean, that's a bonus to get more grip at the front, but you burn the rear tyres up quicker, and towards the end of these long races, you really start to struggle. And by the looks of it, Tander is coming and coming fast, so it'll be interesting to see if he can hold him off towards the end.
Yeah, 8.3 seconds the gap now between Tander and Lowndes, so watch that closely. Craig is vulnerable at the moment, lap 31 of 39. Skaife well in command here, 2.4 seconds.
Yeah, Marcus hasn't been quite just a little. We're always chasing that little bit with HRT, you know, and although we are getting closer, but we're just going to have to keep our heads down and back to the drawing board and keep working at it, because, you know, they're the team that everyone wants to win, and it's just great to see Marcus up there, that forward challenging Holden.
There the Super Cheap Autos car locked him up coming into turn 2. Lost himself a few positions as a result.
That's what happens. You try really hard, and then you overdo it. You know, there's a level, and particularly when the tyres are old and you're getting tired as well, and there's a lot of carbon monoxide in there, and of course he got in there hot trying to make up, you know, a little bit of time on the guy in front, and of course locked the rears. He's gone off and going, oh man, lose about 10 spots.
Yep.
Yeah, that's just you know, getting a bit too anxious with 3 or 4 laps to go. It was unfortunate for him.
Car numbers 17 and 18 still in this pretty good battle involving John Bowe and Stephen Richards. It's worth a look at Stephen Richards throughout this championship, because he's been involved in some great fights from the word go in his first year of the Castrol Perkins Commodore racing team. He finished 4th overall in Adelaide, had a bad weekend at Phillip Island, but he's always involved in some pretty good scrap midway throughout the field if he's stuck there.
Yeah, he's 6th in the championship points right up to now as a result of adding in the points from the 20-minute sprint yesterday. And here's car 35, the car in question, on the reserve fuel tank. I want to be on the reserve one. They just tried to run him on the lightest starting fuel load.
Absolutely. You know, as I was mentioned to you earlier, when you've got a load of fuel in the back, the car's understeer, and it also punishes the rear tyre. So the lighter the fuel load, the lighter the car, and obviously, you know, the faster it goes and the easier it is on tyres. So you've got to try and cut that as fine as possible, but unfortunately I think they're a little bit too fine, and we might see Bargs pushing the car over the line before the finish.
I reckon he'll get out and do it too, because he had a World Championship fight to get that car to the start line. Larry Perkins involved in a spin.
Oh, a shunt, look at the bonnet.
Yeah.
The bonnet's got a huge kink in it, so he's had a hit with something.
Bargs just stroking it along. He's going to try and get it home. Minimal throttle. He's on the reserve tank. He hasn't got much left. It's going to be very close for Bargwanna, car 35. He's running a fair way down the field at the moment. He's been losing a ton of time as a result of this fuel shortage. Here we are, bump between the Team Kiwi car, Jason Richards.
Larry would be nice and happy with that, wouldn't he? If you know Larry, he goes off, and he'd be real pleased.
Watch Jason Richards leave the scene of the crime here in a hurry. Watch this.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like it never happened. He just gets out of the way and shoots past. Larry Perkins will be breathing fire out his ears after that one. Mark Skaife now comes around on the final lap.
He'd be steaming his glasses up, Matty, not breathing fire.
Up through turns 8 and 9, the Corporate Hill part, and then the right-hander, which is turn 10, back to second gear, 78 kilometres an hour. Marcus Ambrose hasn't let him out of his sight, but he's got something dangling at the back of the Pertec Ford.
Looks like any tape.
Yeah.
It's very hard to see, but I hope it's nothing worse than some tape or something underneath the car. But the car looks like it's still running all right, so he should be okay.
Jeez, it's going to be a case of last man standing. Get across the line first. Skaife comes along the main straight here. He won race 1. He's going to make it 2 out of 2 race victories at the Creek. There he goes. Ambrose, he does it again. 5 out of 6 race wins to start the season, and Mark Skaife is well and truly on the way to a record overall win here at the Creek.
So Marcus Ambrose tried hard. He got to within 2.1 seconds in that final fight. Here comes Craig Lowndes.
Holding on for 3rd position. He's fought off Garth Tander, gets along the back marker.
Great drive.
That is a good drive, a terrific drive, as Wayne Gardner told us throughout. He's had a hell of a lot of troubles, obviously, with his rear tyres. He was more worried about who was behind him instead of in front of him.
There, like the last sort of 15, 18 laps, you weren't losing anything to Skaife or Ambrose.
Well, he's made some improvements since listening to that, so they were working frantically this morning, and as I said, there were springs everywhere and bars and you name it, and they've obviously picked the right package, so they're off in the right direction.
There he is. Mark Skaife's done it again. He certainly loves this track, doesn't he? 3 consecutive races. He'll become the first man to win 4 races at one circuit if he can lock it all up here in race 3.
It's not over yet, Matty. It's a long day ahead. I wouldn't just say that just yet.
Another 39 laps to go. This is how they finished. 1, 2 and 3. Skaife, Ambrose and Lowndes. Craig Lowndes, a big mover there, moved up 6 positions. Garth Tander holds on for 4. Then Todd Kelly. John Faulkner gets a top 6 finish. Greg Murphy in 7th and Stephen Johnson in 8th. Radicic and Bow make up the top 10.
Stephen Richards, Neil Crompton, Jason Bright, Cameron McConville, Glenn Seaton and Mark Larkham climbed into the top 16.
Position 17 involves Jason Richards, car 021, the team Kiwi, and right down to 20 is Simon Wills. Race 3 is still to come.